Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement. Your no-hype source for financial advice in making informed choices about your retirement plan. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement, your live and local St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Aaron Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services, financial planner and wealth manager, and I'm joined this week and every single week by my dad, Jeff Lapidus, wealth manager and retirement coach.
Woohoo! In the house.
In the St. Louis broadcasting booth today.
Back on our time zone.
That's right, and in our weather as well.
Welcome to 40s.
Right. And I'm also joined by my husband, Robert Markham, our life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
Good morning.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan with several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate.
Second is to provide an income stream they can rely on so they can do all the things they want in retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches, or charities, whoever it might be, without Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron, Rob, and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Gang, good morning. It's nice to be here.
Nice to have you back.
Yeah, exactly.
Back from our Florida office, as it would be.
That's right.
JBL South.
Yes, back at the world headquarters, which I appreciate. And I want to thank everybody also out in Radio Land listening to us this morning. We've got 2 hours of fun set up for you. As I always like to say, we have a lot of things on our mind. What's more important is what's on yours. Give us a call today, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the usually hot and heavy KTRS text line. And before we get into your questions and calls and our subjects this morning, we do want to remind everybody there are lots of ways that you can keep in touch with us during the week.
That's right. Just log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. You can click on the Contact Us button and request a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. Or if you happen to have a question during the show and it's easier to send it by email, you can send it there. And if we see it over the next 2 hours, we will try to get to it live. If not, you'll get a response within 24 hours. And if you'd like, we also have a newsletter. We call it the Coach's Corner. You can click on the Sign Up button, and you can sign up to receive it every single month. Rob also keeps the last 12 to 18 months on the website for your perusing pleasure. In addition to that, we also have a lot of great content on not only on the website, but also on our Twitter and Facebook pages. So there are lots of ways to contact us throughout the week. But we always love to see you here on Saturday mornings. Rob, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's in, gosh, we're in the very last Saturday of March.
We are in the last week of our March 2026 newsletter, and there's some great articles there for your perusal. The first one being Cash or Credit, How Consumers Pay Today. Almost 40% of all payments now are in credit. Almost 80% said they preferred using a credit card or a debit card, even for in-person payments. So where is cash king? In small, less than $25 in-person payments. That's the only place where cash seems to be king. And I just jotted this down because the infographic is really expensive. Only 3% of people choose to pay by check. And did you see the article the other day about they showed some high school kids a checkbook and they couldn't, it was like hieroglyphics. They didn't know how to fill it out, any of that.
I didn't see that, but we had this experience in the office not too long ago. Kelly, our office manager, brought her daughter to work one day, and her daughter is, I think, 12 years old. And we had been cleaning out some of the old marketing materials that we had not created but received. And Dad, I guess a while ago, some insurance company or something had given you what looked like a beeper as some promo material. And Kelly's daughter is like, Mom, what is this? And so Kelly's trying to explain a beeper to her daughter, which is, when you were out of the house and someone needed to contact you, they could bring this number and then you could find a phone and call them back. And of course, what does her 12-year-old daughter say? Why didn't she just use a cell phone?
I have a feeling when...
it's like a heart drop moment.
When I'm my dad's age, you go to hand someone cash, like, what am I supposed to do with this, sir? That's, or the way some kids can't read cursive, like, because they were never taught.
That's a tragedy.
Yeah, it is. And our next article, foreign stocks outperform in 2025. Over the last 20 years, large and mid-sized U.S. companies produce an average return of about 11%. By contrast, foreign companies of similar size only returned a return of about 6%, so about half. But in 2025, that all got flipped on its head, where foreign stocks returned almost 32% versus only, and I use that word loosely, only 17% for U.S. stocks. Why did this happen? A combination of reasons. The tariff regime that was rolled out last April didn't help. The foreign banks were a little bit more aggressive in cutting rates, and a weak dollar all conspired to create the perfect storm for foreign companies in 2025. And, ETFs and mutual funds provide many ways for those who wish to add a foreign component to their portfolio. But there are additional risks that come with foreign investing, differences in financial reporting, currency exchange risk, and potential economic or political risk in those countries. So you want to be really careful before you make any wholesale changes to your portfolio. Maybe sit down with a financial professional, make sure that any changes you make are in line with your time horizon, risk tolerance, and your goals, of course. And
also, there's, when we talk about international investing, not are there just options between ETFs, mutual funds, individual ADR positions, but it's important this article is great because it gives you some of the terminology. So if you are making these decisions on your own, or if you're working with someone and you like to hear about what specifically you're invested in, knowing the difference between ex-US or ex-USA usually means the rest of the world, not the United States, but global often includes U.S. positions. So if you are attempting to do some, if you're attempting to do some sector investing or, some specific investing like internationally, want to make sure you're not creating any duplication across the rest of your portfolio. So.
Yeah, I would say that in most portfolio modeling that we see, international stocks usually represent about 25% of the total stock configuration built in. So you want to take a look.
That's a good point. Or do you feel like, right? And so we would call that weight if you would like to be underweight that because you feel maybe international isn't going to perform as well as it did in the last couple of years. You would be underweight the 25%. If you wanted to take a bet for whatever reason on international positions in the portfolio, you would say maybe I want to be above that benchmark of about 25%. So just some guidelines to consider.
Absolutely. And our next article, Medicare or Medicaid rather. Every year we get a bunch of confusion, certainly around open enrollment, about Medicare versus Medicaid. I thought this would be a great article to explain any differences that our listeners may have between these very similar sounding but very different programs. It covers the basics. What is Medicare? What is Medicaid? What does each cover? Who's eligible? If there's any gaps in your knowledge base regarding these two programs, this article will be a great refresher. And our last article, New Auto Loan Interest Deduction Explained. With usage of the Big Beautiful Bill, taxpayers may benefit from a new auto deduction of up to $10,000 for interest paid on qualified new auto loans effective for the years 2025 through 2028. This article is going to lay out the vehicle requirements. There has to qualify. It has to be a new car, and final assembly has to be in the United States. So it's very important. Loan requirements, no leased cars, and this has to be for personal use, cannot be for business or commercial uses. And finally, there are eligibility and income phase-outs, $100,000 for those individuals, $200,000 for those married filing jointly. So you want to be careful on that front as well. And that is your March 2026 newsletter in a nutshell. And the new one drops the middle of next week.
That's right.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So Rob, again, has made these the last 12 to 18 months available for your viewing, printing, or downloading convenience. And again, we do call it the Coach's Corner. We're sending out thousands of these every single month by email. So jump on the wagon. We'd be happy to send it as well to you.
That's right.
And just as a reminder, all of our clients are folks like you. They're our listeners. They're 55 and older. They would like to retire, or they're already retired. And as Aaron mentioned, our goal is to create a game plan for them so they can have a fun and hopefully financially successful retirement. We're not allowed to make any promises about that.
Well, as we talk about often, the finances do make up a large component of successful retirement, but there are many other components that we don't have much control over, too.
Exactly. And our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the KTRS text line. So while we're waiting for your calls and texts, I thought it'd be nice to start off with a coaching session that I had recently with Joe and Sally. They've been clients of ours for approximately 6 years. Retired. Joe retired first about 6 years ago at age 67. He turned 73 this year, so obviously we had some fun things to talk about in that respect. And Sally, his wife, was 62 and continued to work for 3 more years until she reached her age 65, and she's now retired at 68. We'd obviously set up a cash flow game plan for them that we want to talk about, but the RMDs, as well as some other fact situations in with them, made us take a look. And basically, my thought was, do we need to fix the plumbing? We need to really work on the cash flow. So let's go in, Rob. Let's start off and go into a little bit of detail about that.
They have a current retirement monthly income need of about $6,000, and we know we have to incorporate taxes back into that number, so we apply 20% to that, and that gives us a pre-income need of $7,200.
When we add their Social Security benefit in, so between Joe and Sally, they were bringing in $4,200 a month. So we can subtract that from the $7,200 a month income goal, and we find that they were short about $3,000 a month. So in order to make up that $3,000 over the last several years, their monthly interest from withdrawals from their non-qualified annuity were bringing in about $2,000 a month. And we were withdrawing about $1,000 a month from Sally's IRA account.
Right, because she had a much longer account. So again,
a much larger account?
Yeah, hers was much larger. So again, we had the sources of, we were using the interest that was earned from one vehicle and obviously income from withdrawals from her IRA to create the et cetera.
And also I think it's important to point out, I hope I'm not jumping ahead too much,
okay,
which is just that we know, but maybe our listeners don't, that the withdrawals from the non-qualified annuity are taxable. So the $2,000 a month that Joe and Sally were receiving from the non-qualified annuity plus all of that income plus $1,000 a month is taxable.
Yeah, let's not get too far into the weeds, but sort of talk about this. They purchased an annuity contract with after-tax dollars. So, and it was a fixed annuity, so they were earning interest on that money. It was growing income tax deferred because that's what annuities do. When you've bought them outside of IRAs, you don't pay income taxes until you begin to do withdrawals. But if you think about it, it's sort of like 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Jello. It's where you have layers. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So think about it. Layer number 1 or on the bottom layer is what you put in your capital, and then what happens is the next layer is interest.
Okay.
Well, when you want to pull money out, you don't get to poke a hole in the bottom and pull out your principal first. The IRS says, just like anything else, you have to pay taxes on the interest. So we were basically draining or emptying with a spoon, eating, whatever, the interest
off
portion
the top
until we get to the principal portion. And once we do get to that point, if we were,
there would be return of capital.
And that would be a non-taxable event. So, again, that distribution and the taxation on that distribution really is no different than an IRA distribution. Fully taxable,
sure.
All earned income, etc. No tax preference. Well, sort of background facts. We know that Joe, because of the size of his IRA, it was a nice size, but it wasn't huge.
Sure.
Was required to pull out $6,000 per year, or about $500 per month.
Okay.
We also know that, and I found out that they were making charitable contributions of about $1,000 a month.
Okay.
Which we know, which kind of cool is we know that he has to do RMDs. We can match against charitables, get rid of that type of a thing. And he and his wife were making contributions to their 2 grandchildren's newly created 529 plans of approximately $1,000 a month.
So this was all built into their current cash flow needs, though. So we didn't have to build. So they were receiving their $6,000 a month Social Security, and then the 2 payments, one from the annuity, one from the IRA, and then they were, aside from obviously Joe's requirement, which we haven't started sending yet, the $2,000 charitable and the 529 plans, that was built into the $6,000 a month.
And you can sort of see, to me, it's like, where's that money going?
Sure.
Right? Some of it's going to, again, non-deductible, going to a 529, and some of it's going to charitable. And they, by the way, they weren't getting deductions because they'd already paid off their mortgage, so they weren't itemizing.
Okay, so until this year, they wouldn't have been able to take advantage of any deductions for those charitable contributions anyway. But now in this year, they would only be able to basically accommodate 2 months' worth of it if they don't itemize their taxes as it stands.
And so as the master plumbers, which I like to think of as master plumbers, faucet managers, what could we do to minimize from a tax basis these distributions? Because the thing is, they didn't need more money. They were happy with that $3,000 a month, and we know where it was going. So what could we do to optimize their cash flows?
Well, the first thing we could do, we could stop making taxable withdrawals from Sally's IRA. I mean, Joe's required to take $6,000 per year from his IRA, so we can kind of move some of that money around and not create 2 taxable events.
Right. Why take $1,000 a month out of Sally's IRA when we know $6,000 has to come out of Joe's IRA?
Yeah, but why not take more?
Sure.
Because we know the $6,000 is the minimum, but if we were to pull $12,000 per year from his IRA, we could direct all of that to satisfy their required minimum, their charitable contributions.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, we went from a taxable situation to basically a tax neutral situation, right?
That's right, and it puts $1,000 back into their budget, so to speak.
Exactly, and also they've saved taxes, right? I mean, literally, because it's now going to charitable, that $12,000, 20% tax savings, that saved them about $2,400. We could also reduce the taxable interest withdrawals from the annuity contract from $2,000 a month to $1,000, less taxable income. And then what we could then do is obviously redirect that money somewhere else.
Right, and so between those things, that should save them an additional $24,000 of $2,400 rather of an income.
Yes, and we also didn't mention, but they do have a large, a fairly nice size, non-qualified trust account.
Oh, so they've got some after-tax money that's not in an annuity.
That's correct. And so what we did was I recommended that we start making withdrawals of $1,000 per month from that, matching that up with the interest withdrawal. And that money would then be directed to take care of the 529 contributions that they were making for their grandchildren.
So I think that a really great point about this is that we start out with one direction, or we start out using certain faucets depending upon your situation. But as time goes on, it does make sense to continuously evaluate where we're pulling money from, not only for tax purposes, but also for efficiency purposes.
Yeah, and, curiously, there's a lot that's written and talked about is how, oh my God, I have to take RMDs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sure you do. It's okay.
Right.
But we have charitable contributions that are available to us to offset the taxation on that.
Sure.
And at the same time, many folks do use that money to live. Fortunately for Joe and Sally, they didn't need the money. They were really directing it to savings for their grandchildren.
Sure.
Charitable contributions, etc. And just by really analyzing where the money was coming from, saying is, can we do the same thing in a little different way? We saved them a bunch of taxes, which is great.
And I would say even if we didn't have all of these opportunities with where they were directing the money, if Joe and Sally had just come in because, we're having our review, it's Joe's first year being required minimum distribution eligible, we probably would have automatically made that change at minimum from Sally's IRA over to Joe's IRA, because we don't want to come to the end of the year and say, well, you had all the income we created all the income that you needed, but oops, now we have another $6,000 of not only taxable income that we must take, but now we're not thrown off the game plan, but certainly we could have been more efficient about how we were extracting the money from the accounts.
No, it was a great plumbing exercise, because the government basically forced his hand to take another income stream and create a taxable event. So how do we incorporate that into what you're already doing and bring it all together synergistically and try and save you some money?
And I would just add finally that
was the fun.
That was the fun, figure out how it all works.
Absolutely.
I think that this is a great example of, a lot of people have fear and trepidation around that looming required minimum distribution. But like you just said, Dad, at least for the majority of our clients, they're already using distributions from their retirement accounts to make their life work. Now the government's going to put a dollar amount on what needs to be taken out. However, we found that I would say for a large portion of our clients that when they get to 73, they're already taking that money. Joe and Sally were already taking that money as well. They were just taking it in a different form. And so now we've adjusted where the money's coming from to meet the IRS requirements, and just so happens for them, we were able to reduce their tax liability as they approach required minimum distribution age.
Yeah, and you really made a very good point. It isn't typical that our clients, Joe and Sally, are the same age.
Right.
There's usually some age discrepancy. So based upon the size of the IRAs, et cetera, we'd say, hey, let's pull from one.
Or who retired first.
Exactly.
Because honestly, if we've set up distributions because someone retired first, the money was available already, we might have needed to replace a portion of that income. When the second person retires, we usually just say, we consider it all family wealth. As long as you do as well, we'll just increase the distribution on the account we're already taking money from. It streamlines things in the sense that you get one 1099 to reflect a year's worth of distributions. You don't have to follow multiple 1099s. I know that's a pain point, especially as we are 15 days away from tax time. So, there are reasons why things are set up the way they are, but that doesn't mean they should stay that way.
Well, and it's also fun because, as you can imagine, they've been retired with us for about
almost 10 years.
Exactly. He's about 10 and she's been about 5 or 6. They're doing stuff that we don't know about.
Sure. All those donations.
Exactly. We've been seeing these folks every 6 months.
Sure.
And so we aren't having these discussions, but guess what? When it comes to be that time, we already had a game plan in place.
Right.
We just adjusted the strategy. So to me, that's the fun part, which is getting in sync with folks. And obviously, that's one reason why we see them all the time. We try to, because we know their life changes, whether it's additions to the family, deletions, whether it's new goals in terms of helping children, grandchildren with educational costs or whatever it might be.
I was going to say that $1,000 a month we know has to be new because the grandchildren are new.
Exactly, which is fun. And that's why we have coaching sessions. It's all good. So, again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. We're halfway through hour number 1. You want to take a first break, and we'll let the phone line, hopefully our text line, fill up?
Yes, please. Let's do it.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with more Straight Talk on Retirement after these messages.
This is the Big 50 KTRS St. Louis, Alton, Valley Park, St. Charles, and the world.
Streaming live at KTRS.com.
I'm Farmer Dave, and here's my good friend and owner of MasterCars Inc., Alex Rosenberger, with today's hot MasterCars Inc. deals.
Spring is in the air, my favorite time of the year. I'm buying and selling, of course, cars and motorcycles daily. I like to buy a few cars a day at this time of year, and I like to buy them directly from the owner. We carry only hand-selected vehicles, and I like to meet the people they come from. It's as much a people business as it is a car business. If you're in the St. Louis metro area, I'll even come to your house to purchase your vehicle, especially if you have more than one to sell or even an entire collection. We're always on the hunt for super clean, rare, and unique vehicles. I'll even buy everyday cars if they have low miles and are exceptionally clean. Hop on my site, mastercarsinc.com, and submit what you've got to sell. We buy, sell, and trade every single day.
So rev that motor and point your car in the direction of MasterCars Inc. and buy or sell today. 4100 Namioki Road in Granite City, or visit mastercarsinc.com to get more details. That's mastercarsinc.com.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
We've been able to expand our operation quicker than we thought was even possible with Farm Credit's help. My name is Garrett Behringer.
And I'm Jacqueline Behringer.
I'm a fourth-generation farmer.
Big challenge is trying to grow our operation. He's been able to grow from cash renting one small farm to being able to own land of our own. Luckily, Farm Credit's been able to help us with that.
They're really the ideal farm lender.
Ready to purchase farmland? At Farm Credit Illinois, young and beginning farmers can receive discounted interest rates. Visit farmcreditil.com/fresh.
When it comes to mortgage lenders, I know you have no shortage of options. But are you working with someone local who can truly simplify the process? I'm David Goldberg with the Goldberg Group. And as a St. Louis home purchase expert, I know this market inside and out. I specialize in tough-to-complete situations for borrowers who are self-employed, looking to buy and sell at the same time, and may have been turned down somewhere else. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or seasoned homeowner, you can trust me with all of your home financing needs. Call or text me at 314-471-4030. 314-471-4030.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talking Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to the show. It's 9:32 here on the Big 550 KTRS. Talk Radio St. Louis. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
And I'm Robert Markham, your fixed annuity and life insurance sales specialist.
And we are willing, waiting, and wanting to answer your questions at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
And we've got some great text on the line. Our first texter of the day says, is it a good idea to put your required minimum take your required minimum distribution and put it into annuity, or is it better to put them in a CD or a money market account?
Well, that's interesting.
I think this depends upon what you need the money to do for you and when. Because all of these things have different. So, I mean, if we go in
liquidity
order,
restrictions.
Exactly. If we go in order of liquidity restrictions, annuities tend to be, well, I guess that's it. Annuities tend to be the most restrictive in terms of your overall contribution. CDs have restrictions as well, but usually they're for shorter amounts of time. And then money market accounts tend to be liquid depending upon the terms of the money market that you have selected, but they tend to be the most liquid of those three options. So if this is excess funds that you have a long time horizon in terms of not needing access to them, that would be the first indicator of what type of product where you might want to put that.
And I guess what I would ask our texter is, if they didn't require you to take this distribution, would you have left the money where it was invested? And,
well, that's an interesting question.
And if the answer to that is no, you wouldn't have taken it, you would have left it invested, maybe we move that to an after-tax brokerage account and get it reinvested.
So you chose not A, B, or C, but the elusive option D. Didn't exist.
I just want to know if they didn't force him to take that distribution, would he have taken it?
Sure.
And if the answer to that is no, then maybe we get it reinvested.
I was going to just input here that of the three options that were discussed here, to me, the least attractive one would be purchasing an annuity contract.
It's probably going to be a small amount.
Right. Now, run is going to be small. Number two, you've added a lot of restraints on your money. Number one is that there's usually a surrender charge schedule, which means that if you put the money in, generally, if you surrender the contract before the end of the 7th year, you're going to pay a fee.
Right. So, and that's going to be entirely contingent upon the type of contract that you sign. They will clearly state what the surrender charges are. If you want all of your money back within that time frame, then you're going to have charges against you for pulling it.
And you will however, have a withdrawal privilege that you can pull usually up to 10% income tax free from 10% free every single year. Again, like we talked about in our last example with Joe and Sally, you're going to pull interest first.
So if you take after-tax dollars, because that's what this became, you took an RMD, so you took it out of your IRA, now you pay taxes, after-tax money, you put that into an annuity, that's a non-qualified annuity, so that means as you're growing interest, whatever you take out, so even if you use the 10% withdrawal, the 10% withdrawal is not tax-free, but it is surrender charge-free. So they give you a corridor that you can pull about 10% of your original premium every year of the contract without hitting that surrender charge, but you will pay taxes. Most likely, in the first year you make a withdrawal, it's going to be taxable because whatever interest you earned is coming out first. Then you're going to just go back right into your principal.
Yeah, and with many folks, what they've done, we don't do a lot of these, but we've seen in the past is the sales pitch is that with a non-qualified annuity, the interest will grow income tax deferred until you decide to pull the interest. The IRS doesn't require you to pull the interest at any time, like with a requirement of distribution. And really, you can wait until you're 95 because that's when settlement options occur. But we find a lot of folks that actually pass away with these, and they really pass on the tax liability to their heirs because their heirs don't have that privilege. They have to actually, the longest that they can wait for paying it out is typically a 5-year period.
Right, because non-qualified annuities do not have the same tax treatment as other assets. So
no step up in basis.
Thank you. There's no step up in basis there. So that means that, especially if you're required minimum distribution eligible, if it's not because of a beneficiary, we can assume that you're at least 73 years old. So if you're creating an annuity, at that point, the likelihood that you are going to want to pull more taxable money while you are already taking required minimum distributions is going to be low. So what you're doing, even if you were to select an annuity that would give you the opportunity to make multiple premium payments, so you could add money every year. So let's say you started the annuity at 73 and every year you add to it using your RMD. Well, you already paid taxes on it, and essentially you could think about, I already paid taxes for my beneficiaries on this money. It's outside of my IRA now because it was forced out. If you put it into the annuity, you are going to create a new taxable event for your children if you or for the beneficiaries if you leave it in there, because all the growth or all the interest that you earned is now going to become taxable to you. Whereas if you had, if you reinvested it outside of the IRA, you get the step up in basis that Rob was talking about, even though that wasn't one of your 3 choices. So if we look at the CD or the money market account, if we take the annuity off the table, what would you consider of those 2 options?
Well, again, I think Rob pointed out very well, which is if we're looking at something that is safe or something that's going to be used to pad your personal savings, you want it to be as liquid as possible. So a money market account, short-term CD certainly makes sense. Alternatively, if you were invested and you want to stay invested, and that is, we're talking about some portion that's being invested at risk through the market, then you do it through a non-qualified account. And the cool part is, as Rob was pointing out, is if you're not needing this money and you're really thinking that this is money that I'm going to have available for future, whether it's my spouse or children or grandchildren, whoever it would be, investing it after tax makes the most sense. Because then, as Rob said, at death, it steps up to fair market value, which means any capital gains is forgiven. and that person can then sell that, and they've gotten that money essentially tax-free because your principal put in was tax-free.
Plus the growth.
So I would say understand where you want to go, whether it's for safety or whether it's for growth. If it's growth, invest for growth. If it's safety, think about liquidity, which is in what situation and or what time period might there be that you might need to access this money, and that will really tell you how liquid you want it to be, right? If you need the money, let's say, I get this RMD, I'm not going to need it for 8 months. Well, you certainly wouldn't buy a CD that was longer than 8 months.
Because you have to break it.
You wouldn't buy annuity at all because we know there's surrender charges the minute you put it in for at least, on average, 5 to 7 years.
Right.
You want to be in a money market. You want to be in a short-term CD. Alternatively,
and you also don't want to be invested because if you need the money within a year, probably not a great idea to put it at risk using equities. So I think, just like you say often, Dad, we need to know where we're going because all of the options that we're discussing, they're tools to get us somewhere. But if we don't know where we're going, then the tools aren't going to be very helpful to get us there.
Right. You don't use, as my daughter once said, you don't use a hammer when you need a screwdriver. Right.
And I don't really know how to use either, so.
And one option we didn't even touch on, if he doesn't, if our texter didn't need the RMD at all, maybe his wife is still insurable. Maybe life insurance is a way of, padding the pillow for the heirs.
Got lots of options.
Absolutely, Rob. That's a good one. Or who knows? I mean, let's assume the spouse is younger.
Right.
Still working. Well, great. Make the RMD on your side, but then have her increase her retirement plan contribution on the other side and wash it out. So lots of different options. Understanding where you want to go, at least at this moment in time, will give you the best direction in where to put the money. Where you're putting the money in is really going to end up being secondary to where you want to need it and see that you'll be using it. And it's probably makes a lot of sense to get a second opinion.
Sure.
Talk to your advisor. Say, listen, if you're using an advisor, they already know what your RMD is. They probably discussed it with you.
Right.
And it's called, does this make sense for us? So, all good.
So
good text.
Before we get to our next text, I think it's going to be another lengthy answer. So why don't we just take our second break of the hour?
Sounds good. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement right after these short messages.
This is the Big 550 KTRS St. Louis, Alton, Valley Park, St. Charles, and the world.
Streaming live at KTRS.com.
Experience Broadway's biggest hits right here in St. Louis with the 2026-2027 Broadway season at the Fabulous Fox. The season opens with the hit comedy Clue. The drop-dead funny Death Becomes Her takes the stage, followed by the heartfelt Boop the Musical. Join us at Broadway's biggest party with The Great Gatsby. Water for Elephants takes you on a dazzling adventure. Be our guest at Disney's Beauty and the Beast. Experience the Tony-winning Best Musical Maybe Happy Ending. And defy gravity when Wicked flies back to the Fox. Season tickets are available now at FabulousFox.com.
Hey, St. Louis, temperatures are rising, and if your AC isn't blowing cold enough, trust the experts at AAA Home Services. For 56 years, they've been fixing it right the first time. Our expert technicians are qualified to work on any system with any issue. We can even perform your annual maintenance on your air conditioner before it gets too hot. And if you need an estimate on a new system, we can do that too. For 56 years, St. Louis has trusted AAA for heating and cooling, electrical, plumbing, and appliance repair needs. Call 636-397-3200. Online at AAASTL.com. Call AAA. We're on our way.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Billy, your gas light's on. We need to stop and fill up.
No way, Jen. Gas around here is too expensive. We can make it a little further.
Billy, listen to your big sister. You don't need to drive all over searching for the lowest gas prices. Do what I do and use Upside.
Upside?
Do you live under a rock, Billy? Upside is the hottest cashback app out there. It's free to download, and you get real cash back for every gallon of gas you buy. I use it all the time, and I've already made around $200.
You can make that kind of cash back just for buying the gas you have to buy anyway?
Yes, I'm looking at the Upside app now, and there's a gas station at the next exit offering 25 cents per gallon cash back.
Okay, I'm stopping to download Upside and fill up my tank. Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code GRAVY25 to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code GRAVY25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code GRAVY25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement. Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talking Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Woo-hoo. I had to do that.
You're just happy to be back.
I can't. It is wonderful to have left beautiful, sunny, 80-degree Florida, our office, my home, to come back and to be with all you folks. It's just wonderful, and I will be back for a long time, for at least 6 months. And our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And we got a good one coming.
And our next texter writes, I have a 15-year universal life insurance policy. It has a loan against it. Each year I receive the bill for the interest for that year. Sometimes I pay it, sometimes I don't. What is the best policy to move forward on the interest on the insurance loan?
Great question. Don't know the answer for a lot of reasons. Right. Number one is don't know what the loan is. Don't know what the number is.
Don't know what the interest payments are.
So just imagine your favorite. I don't even know. I don't even know any cannibal movies. Okay, but
cannibal movies.
Well, that's what you're doing. You borrowed money from the contract. You obviously have it in your possession, or you spent it. You've incurred a loan, which, as we know, it's hard to imagine. You have to pay interest on money that you took from yourself that you put into the contract. But so you have to realize that when you pay a premium, the cash values of the contract are not yours.
Right, they're the insurance companies.
That's exactly right, and they're there to levelize the premium. So what you've done is you tip the apple cart.
Well, just a quick second, just so for everyone that's listening, if you have taken a loan against your life insurance policy of any type, really, you took a loan from the cash value that you paid in using premium, and then potentially if there was growth of the cash value.
Right. So what's happened is there's a loan existing. You owe loan interest. You also owe premium.
Because you still have to keep the policy in force.
Right.
So now you have two separate things that you're owing money to here.
And if you don't pay the interest that comes due, and you don't pay the premium when it's due, or you're asked to be billed for it, the policy begins to eat itself.
So
because
what happens?
Because basically the cash value of a universal life policy. Think of it this way. Great analogy. Imagine a glass of water.
Okay.
You're pouring in the premium.
You know what you used to do this example on the whiteboard when I first joined you, but you would call it a trash can.
Okay, so you're
but just go with the water glass.
We're filling the glass of water. Okay, that's your premium. From there, what we're doing is we're taking out
term insurance,
the cost of term insurance,
mortality.
Let's call those administrative fees.
Okay.
Okay, so we're taking the fees out. If there's anything left,
gets added to your cash value.
That you get interest payments, and it'll grow. And so what happens is the idea with the universal life contract is that you eventually grow the cash value, the savings portion, so that the interest will then pay for the increasing insurance, and administrative fees are fixed, but the insurance costs continue to rise
as you get older.
Right, and so we're having a little fun with this. So let's just use a face amount of a policy. Let's call it $100,000.
Okay.
And let's say that the cash value of the contract, not including any loans, like in this situation, is approximately $40,000.
Okay, so they have a $100,000 face amount with $40,000 of cash value.
Right, which is fine. And what occurs is that we know that, and let's assume this person is 60 years old.
Okay.
So the term insurance charge for $100,000 on a 60-year-old is probably running somewhere in around the year let's say $3,000 a year.
Okay.
So you got a $40,000 cash value. Is that cash value, the interest that they're paying you on that cash value, going to be enough to cover that $3,000 charge? The answer is no. We know it isn't. So you have to pay premium. And if you don't, what occurs is then the cash value begins to recede.
So you can use your cash value to pay the premium, but if you haven't earned enough interest, you are going to start depleting the cash value, which means that you'll earn less interest the next year, which basically it becomes a self-fulfilling, which is why it's going to start eating itself.
Hence the cannibalization.
Right.
Yes. So if you see yourself in a situation like this, and frankly, it may not even be one that you planned on.
So let's just go back to the texture really quick, which means if you were in that situation, you've got the $100,000 of life insurance, $40,000 cash value that's not making up enough interest. Now, if we add the texter's question in, we've added a loan against the policy, which also has interest payments that you need to make. If you don't make the payment, that reduces the cash value as well, correct?
Oh, the cash value is already reduced, and so is the death benefit.
Oh, they just keep adding to the interest that you owe.
You better believe it just keeps going. Exactly.
So the loan amount, let's just say that there was a loan amount. How much of that?
Say $10,000.
$10,000, and we're adding interest to that. If you don't pay it, the $10,000 becomes $10,100, $10,200, and that keeps running.
Yep.
How does when the loan exceeds the face amount is when the policy, or when the loan exceeds the cash value, that's when the policy blows up.
The policy blows up when you're not putting any money in and that the cash value has run out. Like in this case, you're not paying premium, you're not paying loan interest, the cash value will continue to be reduced.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is eventually when it goes to zero and your policy lapses, you don't have any insurance.
And you potentially owe taxes on the loan you took.
Exactly.
But we won't get to that part.
So the real core question for our texter is what do I do?
Right.
Well, this is what you need to do. Number one is you need to determine whether the face amount that you have in place is appropriate.
So do we want to keep the policy as is?
Right. And we know that with universal life policy, even though they also have a surrender period, which typically runs from 10 to 15 years. I don't know how old this contract is, which is why I can't give exact answers. Is you might want to, you should have a provision, unlike in a whole life policy, where you could actually lower the face amount. Maybe we do that. We lower it. So that means
less charges.
So think about if we have less charges, what happens in our example?
We've extended the life of the policy.
The cash value.
Right, exactly. The cash value isn't being hit as hard with the we'll call them the mortality charges, the term insurance charges, because really in a universal life contract, and look, folks, I hope you find this mildly interesting. It is for me. I'm a geek, okay? I'm trying to understand how this thing's
work. If not, you only have 8 minutes to go.
So just think about this technically. If we have a $100,000 policy and you have a $40,000 cash value,
you only have
how much?
That's
right. The term insurance charge is based on really $60,000, not based on $100,000.
Because you already gave because what happens when you pass away is the insurance company gets to keep the cash value, which is why it's not yours, and they give you the death. Well, they don't give it to you, but they give it to your beneficiaries, the death benefit. So if you've already put 40 in, then the insurance company says we will really only owe 60 when we pay it out.
We call that the net amount at risk.
Okay.
So if what we've done is if we lower the face, we're lowering the net amount at risk, which means that the term insurance charges will be lower. The admin fees are going to be the same.
Right, because that's stagnant once you sign the contract.
And so the real question is, how much do we really need and want? And then, obviously, what we should be able to do is to create some level of equilibrium in the contract, meaning how much am I willing to pay and how much can the contract support for the time period that I'm willing to make payments.
Maybe a half-and-half situation. Contract can support some portion of it. You kick in the rest.
Well, yes, and so it is a computer model. So what happens is every single year what we're doing is we're going, okay, and this was kind of neat about a universal life contract. When you get your annual statement, it'll show you this is how much you put in, this is how much they took out. This is how much interest you're on a month-by-month basis.
And they actually even break it down for you that show you what the charges are, so you could see, okay, this is what I was charged for, this is what I earned, do these match?
Yeah, and what's neat is because they have to use a NAIC model, which is the National Association of Insurance Commissioners model. If you look at the right column, it shows what the ending cash value is on every month. So you can see whether what you're putting in and the interest being, how is it actually happening? And so with many of our clients, they're going, look, I really don't want to pay premium. I'm like, okay. But we need to keep
the cash
your head above water. So what we're going to do is take a look at what the difference is between what the beginning of your cash value was, what the end of your cash value was. That's how much the policy depleted. We put that amount in, so we're back to equilibrium. Now, we know that's going to go up every single year, incrementally, very small amounts. But that would be one way to keep us afloat, if that's something that you want to happen.
Also, could you work with... So could our texter call the agent that sold them the policy and request that they run some illustrations to figure out how much has to go in every year to either keep the policy afloat, like you mentioned?
Well, they can do that, or they can call the home office directly, which we would be doing for them because we weren't the agent.
Right.
And basically, I think it's more important to be able to say to the person that's running the illustrations, by the way, this is what I want.
Right, I want this to happen.
I want I want the policy to stay in force to age 100, have a zero cash value at that time. What's the amount I have to put in based on what's in there today? I mean, they can run these. They call these in-force illustrations because the policy's in force, so that you and or hopefully a professional can look at these with you and go, okay, this is what we can do.
Does this make sense?
That's right. And is this a strategy I'm willing to adopt to make this happen? Because the problem is, folks, you have to remember this. If you own a life insurance policy and you want to get rid of it, either on purpose or otherwise, okay, your basis, it's like any other investment. Your basis is what you paid. If you've taken money out, that means you've gotten money as a loan. You've gotten your money back. That's how the IRS looks at it. So the bottom line is, if you sell the contract at that time, what's the cash value at the end versus what you've paid less what you've gotten back? If you have a gain,
you owe money.
You owe money. You owe taxes on that amount.
So I think that the moving forward, first, the best thing to do would be decide how you want the policy to look, meaning is the face amount still appropriate for what you're looking for? Secondarily, I might consider, since you mentioned in your text, some years you pay it, some years you don't. If that's a choice, then great. But if that's a necessity thing, like I can't afford to pay this interest or I don't want to this year, maybe before you either call the agent or your advisor or the home office of the company that you have the policy through, how much can you afford to pay every year? Because the cool thing about asking for in-force illustrations is you can ask for a multitude of options. You can ask for what we just talked about. I want zero cash value when I get to age 100. How much do I have to put in? I want to reduce the face amount to X. How much do I have to put in to still get to age 100? Or I can afford to put in X amount of interest every year. Where do I end up? How long will the policy last if I can only afford $300 a year of interest?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is if you decide to start sending, I'm assuming that you're not sending money to the insurance company today.
Well, it says some years they do, some years they don't.
When you decide to send the next check in, you need to be very careful and denote whether that money is going to premium
or interest
or loan interest, because they will automatically apply it
to premium
to the loan interest.
Oh, interesting.
So automatically they'll apply to the loan
because that's the most important thing first.
Yes.
Okay.
So they're going to. So you have to be careful and make sure that you delineate this very well, and you have to, you put it in. Actually, you put it in writing, not just on the bottom of the check, like premium.
Right.
Say this is what I want.
Right.
Okay. Now you'll get a statement once you've made your payment.
That'll reflect.
Especially if you said apply to the loan, you'll get a statement going, hey, my loan went down. But if they apply it to the premium and you wanted to go to the premium, they apply it to the loan, you get the statement that says we reduced the loan, then you're like, nope.
Right.
Didn't do it right. Let's go back. Here's the writing, etc. So having a professional work with you that you've already paid. It's not a bad deal to do that. But we have a lot of life insurance questions from clients, frankly, we didn't sell the insurance to.
Most people are purchasing life insurance before they approach retirement.
Which is fine.
Sure.
And, life insurance can be a very valuable asset inside of your estate plan, whether it's to create capital for someone at your death, to create an inheritance for someone that you might want, to help them pay taxes maybe that you've left them because you have IRAs that are left over, to pay off business. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to retain these contracts over a period of time.
I was just thinking of the business continuity plan that we put together for a couple of clients.
Exactly. Making sure that the business continues to the next generation, and typically mom or dad's having the money. And
Or even if it's not a family business, but you want to make sure that there's some insurance available if your family member is the key person or the driver behind the business, that there's money available.
Yeah, we're going to have a discussion about that. Maybe not this week, but I think next week, about the use of business life insurance, because we do have many folks that are business owners that we do work with. And to continue these subjects and other in hour number 2, don't touch that dial, because we will be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement right after these messages.
Welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back, everyone, to Straight Talk on Retirement, hour number 2. As always, we like to kick off our second hour with our Smart Choices About Your Healthcare segment.
Because you care, we talk Medicare. And we've got a great story that was relayed to us by Frank about a rather unique situation, and we've affectionately called this story Sometimes You Need an Advocate.
Sometimes you need an advocate.
Right. I mean, we like to get very granular on the policies and what they do, how they function, but sometimes, we just need a nuts and bolts story of, hey, I was running into a brick wall, and I need your help getting over it.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about it.
So a couple months back, we received a call from our client, Tom, and he told us he had a friend that was living in the St. Louis area who could really use some help. His friend was 72 years old, and he was a huge guy, 6'5", 300 pounds.
It's like a former football player or something.
Think lineman type build. And he didn't have any illnesses. He didn't take any prescriptions. He was about as healthy as one could be for someone who, in their 70s, 6'5", 300. So he said his friend Mark needed a knee replacement, and this is where things started to go wrong. Mark was told by his doctor several years ago to delay his knee replacement for as long as possible. And the technology kept improving every year, so it kind of made sense to wait. As Mark waited several years to get his knee replaced, his weight kept increasing.
Probably because his knee was hurting. He couldn't do much.
Right. It's like a feedback loop. The more it hurts, the less I walk. The less I walk, the more weight I gain.
It
totally, completely makes sense in that regard. So, now Mark was in a situation where he desperately needed to have his knee replaced because of the pain. And when he went to see his doctor, he told him he had to get his weight down before they operated on him.
And now the feedback loop is worse.
Right.
Can't work out. Can't lose the weight.
Can't
get in the replace.
You already see where this is going. And, Mark was pretty distraught by that. He's in addition to the, to the pain that he was experiencing, he was getting to the point where, he had stopped walking pretty much altogether. And, his doctor asked him to lose the weight and prescribed some Ozempic, and he'd been taking Ozempic for a few months. He saw, some results, but because he wasn't able to even, take 500 steps a day, it wasn't working as quickly as, either of them would like. And, it was quite literally killing Mark. I mean, it was really putting him under the gun as far as, bathing, doing laundry, daily activities, living on DoorDash, so to speak. So, we really needed to get Tom some help. I mean, Mark some help, rather. So Mark is not a client of ours, so, Tom asked us if we would give him a call and see if was there anything that we could do for him. So right away when we got in touch with him, first thing we asked him was, what plan were you on? And he was on the United AARP ST4, which I'm sure many of our listeners are familiar with. It's a pretty popular plan. So we came up with a game plan for Mark. Mark could barely walk, and he could barely take care of himself, so we knew that he needed some skilled nursing. His plan offered 100 days of skilled nursing, and we knew that the only way to get the skilled nursing was the doctor needed to see his condition. So we told Tom to take Mark to the emergency room and let Mercy admit Mark. And that's exactly what Mercy did. They immediately admitted Mark after seeing his condition. Step 2 was for Mark to directly request through his doctors at the hospital that he be taken to skilled nursing once they released him. And that's exactly what the doctors agreed on. After 5 days of hospitalization, they sent Mark to a skilled nursing facility. Step 3.
Okay, so this is like an in-depth process that we had to come up with.
Oh, for sure.
All right.
So now, step 3, they tried to kick Mark out after 2 weeks.
Tried to kick him out of the skilled nursing facility?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Told Mark to go back to the primary care physician and request additional skilled nursing. And again, that's exactly what the doctor agreed on. After 6 weeks of skilled nursing and physical therapy, Mark had lost 40 pounds and was now within the target weight of being able to get his knee replaced.
That's incredible.
It really, absolutely. So, the moral of the story is when you work with JBL, not only do you get great advice, you also get an advocate. It's one thing to be onboarded onto Medicare, into a plan. What happens when, making that plan work for you or learning the ins and outs of it on the fly, because we all can't be experts in every little nuance. You may need to reach out to someone. You may want to talk to someone. You may want to get some more advice. That's where we come in.
This is really incredible because not only is this helping someone that we didn't have to change the plan, it didn't cost them any more money. There was no sale involved in getting Mark what he needed. It was just a matter of not only knowing the specifics of the plan that Mark was on, but knowing how to use those benefits to his advantage. Because I don't even think that it sounds like Mark had an excellent doctor. Even Mark's doctor didn't think, hey, this is a great way for us to get this taken care of for you, because I thought the story was going to go, doctor prescribed Mark Ozempic wasn't covered, something along those lines, but this really wasn't about that. It was about the original treatment that the doctor prescribed really wasn't getting Mark to where he needed to go. So being able to use the plan to leverage additional health care is usually something that people don't see, because most of the time when we are interfacing with physicians and with providers, they tell you what you need and then the insurance is covering that, versus in this example, the doctor told Mark what he needed. We had to use the plan to figure out how to get him there.
How do we utilize the plan to get you where you want to go?
Right, because skilled nursing wasn't even part of it. It's not even part of the goal here, but that was the only way to get Mark where he needed to go.
It was a piece that had to be brought into play given, the variables that he had going on.
I know we don't have all the specifics, but did Frank happen to mention why they were able to admit Mark to the hospital?
That part I didn't get from Frank. on how he was on board, and they just looked at him and just took him right in. I imagine that given the way this was relayed to us,
that he wasn't able to perform those activities of daily living and things were going awry.
Exactly. And another great part of the story is Mark wasn't even a client.
No.
This was just like, I have a friend. Can you take a look? And Frank just threw himself right into the gears of the machine, so to speak. And so it was really, it's just one of those situations where, you have a policy. I know I'm covered. I know there are options here. I don't know how to access those options. I need help.
Right.
And, that's where being able to reach out to someone like Frank or myself, where, let us do the fighting.
Sure. Well, also because in this particular example, the knee replacement's covered. It's just that the doctor wasn't able to do it because he didn't meet the weight requirements. So we're not even talking about coverage issues here. What we really are talking about is being able to access the coverage itself.
Yes.
So.
Absolutely. And it's another situation where, like I said, you can never have enough people in your corner, and there's never a charge to you. So it's certainly for the listener out there that, doesn't have a trusted Medicare advisor, this could be a good reason to get one.
I think that's a great point. It's not, unfortunately, this is not a set it and forget it piece of anyone's retirement. You got to check it every year. And although the plans are, in our opinion, easy to use, once you sat down with someone and talked through it, it doesn't mean that it's always easy to get what you want or what you need. and working directly with someone that, doesn't work for the insurance company, doesn't even work for the doctor's office, somebody that's solely there to support you and get the most out of your plan is really going to be of benefit, I think, in the long run. So, because everyone's got to pay their Medicare Part B premium, even if you choose a Medicare Advantage plan. So that means you're paying for coverage every single year if you utilize it or not. Make sure that you are working with someone that when you need to utilize coverage, you get to maximize the use of that coverage because you paid. You paid for it. So let's make sure that when it's time for the insurance company to help you or for you to get some benefit out of what you've paid for, that you're not the one that's shortchanged in that equation.
No, you bring up a great point. And, here you have, you call the insurance company, you're dealing with their representative. You call the doctor's office, you're dealing with their representative. Who's your representative in all this? Who's fighting on your behalf?
Right, and of course, there are amazing physicians out there that do excellent, not only do they do excellent work, but they go to bat with the insurance companies, but they are not experts on the policies themselves. So having someone like Frank or Rob step in and say, hey, let's get you where the doctor wants you to go, but let's use a different part of the policy to get us there. Because there would be, in this example, the doctor's office couldn't do anything except for try to help Mark lose some weight because that's what was holding them back from doing the knee replacement. No amount of appeals is going to change that when there are set standards. So this was kind of a different case in which we really needed somebody that knew what other options were out there. And Frank is not a doctor, so he wasn't prescribing anything or making any recommendations, but he was saying, hey, let's get you in somewhere that can get you some help. We know your policy covers it already. So
another hopefully satisfied potential client. I think
that's right.
I think Frank is definitely
building some rapport, some credibility, some goodwill. We love that.
Absolutely.
All right, why don't we take our first break of the hour when we get back?
And we get back with more of our stories, more of your texts and calls, hopefully, right after these brief messages.
This is the Big 550 KTRS St. Louis, Alton, Valley Park, St. Charles, and the world.
Streaming live at KTRS.com.
Call the closer with Lauren Risley Realty every Sunday afternoon at 1. Powered by Homestead Financial Mortgage on the Big 550 KTRS, the talk of St. Louis.
Mom, what do you always say? There's nothing sadder than jewelry that sits in a drawer.
That's why we are proud to offer jewelry repair on site at Newstetter's Fine Jewelry. We know that your jewelry is important to you, and we take that part of our job very seriously. Visit us at Doherty Ferry in Big Bend or learn more at wowdiamonds.com.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Here comes Peter Cottontail.
The 63rd Concours d'Elegance Easter Sunday at Forest Park, presented by the Horseless Carriage Club of Missouri, reminds you there is still time to reserve your spot and showcase your vehicle. Go to hccmo.com to get more information. Called the Easter Show, it is the largest and most significant gathering of authentic, restored, and original antique vehicles 25 years old and older, with some dating back to the dawning days of the automotive industry more than a century ago. The 63rd Concours d'Elegance Easter Sunday in Forest Park, hccmo.com.
Can I get serious for a moment? Something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is my front yard and taking care of your front yard. Because when you drive by someone's house and it's full of weeds, you think to yourself, oh man, it's very, very simple. You know how much I love to pretend to be a yard dork. You know what I use? Fertilome. I go to fertilome.com and I type in my zip code, and a whole host of local independent lawn and garden dealers show up. I buy the crabgrass preventer plus lawn food. It's the spring application. I get it down on my yard as soon as possible, and that greens up my yard and keeps the weeds away. So it makes me look like I know what I'm doing. But really, all I'm doing is getting Fertilome and putting it on my front yard. And that will take care of my yard for many, many, many weeks, and it go a long way to having the greenest yard in the block. So, this spring, you want to green up your yard and get rid of the weeds? It all starts at Fertilome or Fertilome.com.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back to the show. Fun Medicare segment, as always, kiddies. Very nicely done.
Thanks.
You know, I thought certainly our regular listeners know we're doing Medicare every day.
Yes.
It isn't just open enrollment. It's about helping folks make that transition. And in many cases, understanding how to access your Medicare benefits can really be a very pivotal decision about when do I retire.
That's a good point, too.
You know, many folks don't realize that,
you've got options.
That's right. What is the 7 months around Medicare? How does COBRA interact with this? What are your options? And, it's good. I mean, it's fun, and it's neat to see this become such a large portion of our practice. I mean, we have, I don't even know, is it close to 4,000 people? I mean,
it's quite a few. Yes, quite a few.
That we're helping with on this matter, and so that's fun.
We're 7-day-a-weekers during open enrollment.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and, we're also 7-day-a-weekers when it comes to during the year.
That's right.
Good. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. I mean that. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the usually hot and heavy KTRS text line.
And while we're waiting for your text and calls, maybe we should talk a little bit about John. John writes, I am 67, and I have set a goal to retire next January. My wife, Judy, is still working, but wants to retire in May next year when she turns 65. Our current investment mix is 60% in stock mutual funds and 40% in bond mutual fund mix.
It was 5 weeks ago. It's got a little market retracement so far. We're on the edge of correction territory, correct?
I actually think we slipped. I think the NASDAQ is in that correction territory
We're
at this
either
point.
right at it or just
We're
reached it.
After Friday, I think we're just approaching.
And John wants to know, should I change my mix to become a more conservative investor during retirement?
What do you think, babe?
Well, if the goal is to live off the interest and the earnings of the portfolio and maintain that original principal, we're going to want to maintain an investment mix that gives us the opportunity to do that. And not our personal studies, but studies show that a moderate mix of about 60-40 will deliver the returns that you are looking for over a long period of time, and are going to allow you to not only retain that original capital, but hopefully prudently grow it while being able to make those distributions that everyone is looking for to maintain their lifestyle.
Well, that's great. So let's talk about what I call the 8% formula.
Okay.
You will want to have, in my opinion, solely my opinion, to have a goal of an 8% annual return. And here's why.
And that's annualized, which means that not every year needs to be 8.
Exactly. Which is what our goal is for our moderate investors. If you're earning 8%, if we assume that the historical rate of inflation is 3%. It's been 0 for some time, and now we've seen 20s, 11s, and all kinds of stuff. But in this country, overall, it's about 3%. If we assume taxes run 20%, which is basically of a 4%, that's 1%.
Of a 4% withdrawal, it's 1%.
Right.
Okay.
So that if 8 less 3 less 1 is 4. 4% your prudent withdrawal. That's your goal. If you're utilizing a mix that is less than 60%
equities,
you have I think it's an 85% chance of not earning that rate of return.
So then you'll start to deplete so then you have to make the decision, am I pulling 4% from this portfolio? If so, you'll start to deplete capital.
Exactly. Which we don't want to do. And we don't want to do it for many reasons. Reason number one is life happens. No matter how beautiful the plan is, if it has to be at 4% every year, we know eventually we're going to have issues unless we have significant growth, because it isn't that clients' income needs change, but things happen. They have repairs. They have family emergencies.
New cars, which are not inexpensive anymore.
New additions to the family.
Exactly. They have sometimes things that aren't positive happens. Kids lose their jobs and they need help.
Or positive things happen they want to spend money on.
There you go.
Marriages, vacations that are unplanned or maybe larger than expected, those kind of things.
We know life happens. We know things happen. And so we need to give ourselves an opportunity through a well-diversified portfolio, minimum 60% in equities, 40% fixed income. And, this can be different at different times. We talked about earlier, Rob did this morning in the newsletter, 2025 was the first year in maybe 5 or 6 years that actually international stocks outperformed U.S. stocks. When we look at interest rates, we know that at a time of falling interest rates, bonds are good because the bonds that you own become more valuable than ones they're issuing now at lower rates. Alternatively, when interest rates are rising,
your bond portfolio becomes less valuable.
And it goes down fast because the value of each bond that you already own isn't as good as the ones they're doing now. They're issuing new.
Right.
So what happens is that obviously this is what we do. We're monitoring client portfolios, trying to make some decisions about direction and mix, and constantly working on that direction and mix, trying to, and in most cases, keeping that same 60-40, which we call moderate, 80-20 growth. Somewhere in that middle section is where most of our clients fall. And so we're always working with the mix. But to imagine if you go less conservative, if you become more conservative, what are you doing? You're lowering your risk, your portfolio, but also you're lowering your return.
You're also increasing other types of risk.
Well, that's right. So use an example. Let's just say that somebody was, and we've heard this, well, I'm going to put all my money in the money market account and I'm going to go to CDs or whatever. Well, that's great. Let's go to CDs today. What are you going to get? 3%, maybe 4% if you're lucky? What happens? You still owe taxes, so that 3% is now diminished, or let's call it 4%. It's diminished by 20%, so now you're down to 3%.
Right.
Inflation.
And you need to consume 4%.
Right.
Hello?
Well, you're going to deplete that really quickly.
Exactly. And then what if interest rates go up? Now
then you missed out on the opportunity to buy the new CD at a higher rate.
Right, and the shorter the term of the CD, the lower the rate. People pay you more money to hold their money longer. It's interesting because I think today we're in a pivotal period when it comes to interest rates. If inflation is roaring and continues, and look, we have a short-term thing here with oil. It'll eventually work itself out. It always does. But if we're in a situation where inflation continues, the Fed's supposed to basically how do they put the damper on inflation?
Increasing interest rates again.
Not decreasing rates. Increase. They're talking about, should we decrease rates? So we're in a pivotal period here.
Especially because, like you said, Dad, we've got this thing with Iran that's going on that could create a spike in pricing. But just during that, we received a pretty hot inflation number. I think it was last week or the previous week that was unexpected. So we were seeing unfortunate rising inflation prior to
which is
oil
based
prices.
on consumption. I mean,
Right.
The truth is that prices rise because there's more demand for goods than there are goods available. That's why prices rise.
Right, and that's why the clever
Which
way.
is good, by the way. Which is good.
Right. Usually see a nice bump in the market, all those kind of things. But
right. You want good companies are selling more product, they're having more earnings, their expectations of their prices are going to grow. That's what you want.
Right, but being in a spot where we were in prior to this past month, we were in what we expected to be a falling rate environment, or at least a holding rate environment, and now that's been called into question. Probably the cut is off the table. I mean, is off the table from the last meeting, and doesn't sound like they're very
the wait and see approach.
Right. So, and now there's talk of a rise of potential rising rates.
Yeah, I think what's important here, and again, I didn't mean to get off the subject too much. I'm really not, but these things are transitory. I mean, we're not going to be these incursions, whatever they are, events, are always short-lived. They're not. This doesn't go on forever. It will end. We'll get back to where we were. I mean,
or even if we've been talking, but we were joking a little bit that unfortunately it seems like every generation gets their own Gulf War or Gulf incursion.
Sure.
We all participated in the market, or many of us participated in the market, retired, lived our lives over the last Gulf War, which lasted 20 years. We were in Iraq. So, the heightened tensions usually do fade, and that gives us new opportunities as time goes on. We just have to get through this.
You ready to talk about the seagulls?
The seagulls.
Well, the truth is that we will. And, staying invested is important. You can't time the news because events are unknown. The future is unknown. What is known, though, is that, let's be honest, productivity in this country continues to increase at a rapid rate. Technology is making things, we're at the very beginning of the AI revolution, which is kind of cool. Let's be honest, education may not be as, people can say woke or whatever, but kids are smarter. They have more access to tools, which is great. And so what's happening here is that, are we at the height of U.S. economy, civilization at this point? The answer is no. Of course we're not. It's going to continue in the future. So these short-term bumps, they're not fun.
And they seem to happen on a pretty consistent basis.
Well, they do. And the truth is that, every part of our game plan that we create for clients is we understand these are going to happen. We just don't know when.
Right.
And being able to continue a sustainable income stream in a volatile market is extremely important, because what happens, as I like to say, and we try to remind our clients about this, when things are good, we're banking our gains. When we have gains that are in excess of what we're expecting, we're banking those because we know, we don't know when, that we're going to hit situations like this.
Well, Dad, I think that you've segued into a really interesting conversation that I had with a client just this past week, which was, he came in and said, Aaron, I was reading an article.
Oh, boy.
That said to me that the 4% rule is dead because over long periods of time, and then he pulled out this slide thing. It was pretty cool. It was a piece of construction paper, and you could move the inside like a ruler, and it had different numbers on it. And basically, it said part of it was,
if this happens, you do this. If
no,
happens, okay.
It's even cooler than that. So it had 3 little boxes, and it was 10 years, 20 years, and forever. And you lined up, you slid the thing around based on how much money you had and how much you were withdrawing. So he hands it to me and says, okay, Aaron, look at this. And so I look at it, and I'm looking at his withdrawal rates that are on the 10-year, the 20-year, and the forever. And I'm like, this is great. We're in the forever box, because his withdrawal rate based on his current assets matched up with that it's going to last forever. So I think that was right about 4%. It looked like maybe 4.5% on this slide rule thing.
Sure.
So he said, Aaron, I'm not going to live forever. So can we increase my rate of withdrawal?
I thought you were going to say, can we help you?
I was also reading, I saw that I got this slide thing, and it came with the article that I was just telling you about. It says 4% rule's dead. Rates have been, returns have been so well that you can actually increase your withdrawal rate every year based on your new portfolio value. So, you get a 10%. You had a great year, you get a 10% return. Now you can adjust your 4% based on your new account value on January 1. It's like the RMD of withdrawals. Every year we get to change it. He said, why haven't we, and why can't we do this? And I said, it's not that we can't do this, because it is your money. We're just here to watch it for you. We're going to return it when you ask for it. But, and Dad, this is where what I thought was a great segue is, we know things are going to happen.
They always do.
4% is not going to always be what you withdraw. But if we keep it at 4% for the years that we don't have an emergency, that nothing new comes up, that you're living the lifestyle that we planned for you, because you came to us and said, this is how much I'm spending every month. We're going to match that for you.
100% match.
100% match. So you can have the same lifestyle the day after you retire as the day before. If we can keep that consistent in the years that it is consistent, that gives us the opportunity to live off the gains, not just when the market is not working in our favor, but the times when you actually need the excess. Why take the excess every year if you don't need it and pay taxes on it? Why limit yourself in the future when the really cool thing to watch is when we've had clients for sometimes over a decade now have been with us, and we can go back and say, this is where we started at 4%, but now based on your current portfolio value, we're at 3%, we're at 2.5% of withdrawal rate now, because you didn't change what you were pulling, but over time your portfolio grew. So that does give you more freedom, more flexibility when you want it and when you need it, versus saying mathematically, I'm supposed to be able to take more every year.
Why take money that you're not? Why pay taxes on money you're not consuming?
Well, but even
that's been my mantra for 30 years.
But even if it was after tax money and you weren't going to pay taxes on it to pull it out, why take it? Maybe put it in that savings account that's earning very little, or why pull it out of your mix and model just to say you were able to do so? Because the goal is that's going to be the engine that keeps the car going for you all the way through retirement.
No, as your account goes up, that 4% becomes a little bit less, and if you're using that prudent 4% withdrawal, and you're not taking the extra cream, as we'll call it. You're building in the cream for those unexpected events that we know are going to come down the line, whether it's vacation, a new birth, a new car, a new roof. Is there a story we haven't heard in that regard?
Well, I think it goes even further, and that is on two levels. Level number one is everyone other than us is wrong. Okay? I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
Everything that you read, every article that you read is based upon this is a percentage of my income I have to replace.
Usually it's like an 80% rule or something like that?
It's wrong. Okay? Or let's put our money into this, let's put our numbers into this calculator and let's assume inflation is this and taxes are this, whatever. Wrong. Returns aren't stable over time. Inflation isn't stable over time. Taxes certainly aren't stable over time. What is stable is your spending.
And your behavior.
That's us. We're the only ones, I think we're the only ones to talk about it. Our goal, our planning paradigm is very simple. We're going to match 100% of your current after-tax spending, period. That is your life. The day after you retire, same as the day before you retire. If we do that, I have found, and again, this is empirical, okay, and I can only use my own evidence. Doing this for 25 years, no one has ever asked us for a raise.
On a monthly income basis.
Right.
All of the clients people we work with have had emergencies, urgencies,
Absolutely.
Needs above and beyond monthly income, but...
Right. They're spending just what they want, what they always did. Their life is what their life. What they did was they substituted what they were spending.
Well, it's like we've
vacations versus leisure events versus what it costs to go to work, gas, etc.
And this also includes inflationary issues as well, because, Dad, you made this point several years ago when we first saw that spike in gas prices, and we first started seeing that pretty significant inflation hit. People are going to make choices. Like, you don't walk into the grocery store and on Tuesday you spent $100 for the same things, and then you find while you're putting things in the cart, all of a sudden it's not $100, it's going to be $140. Well, most people say, I'm not going to eat the bacon this week. It's so expensive, or we all had those issues with eggs. I'm just not going to buy the eggs this week. I'm going to buy cereal instead. I'm going to make some choices. Some of these are conscious in that I'm not paying for it. Some of them become subconscious.
Coca-Cola. I have to tell you, I'm a big Coke drinker. I have been forever. I walked into Publix.
Down in Florida?
In Florida, which is sort of like, it's basically like Schnucks Deerbergs, but not nearly as good. Grocery stores everywhere else. We have great grocery stores. No, I'm serious. I walked in, and they want $11.95
for how many cans?
For a 12-pack of soda.
That's $1 a can.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
and I
just
said,
go to the vending machine.
And I said, no.
So what did you buy? Vespa?
I didn't.
No,
I didn't. I also happen to like Gatorade. Found it on Amazon, but I could afford to pay $11.99, $11.95.
But you don't want to.
No way. I'm just not. That's just like, it is not. There's no way, because I remember when it was half that price. I wasn't even buying it for the office when it was over $5 a 12-pack. So, no. I mean, people make their own conscious decisions. Could I live without Coca-Cola? Well, not for too long, but it's okay. We do these things, but I would tell you that, people, they increase if they've increased their spending with us, it's because they've decided, hey, we want to help, and we see this all the time. We want to help our grandkids pay for that private tuition, right? Or we know the folks can't afford the select soccer camps or whatever it is. We want
Grandma
to do this.
and Grandpa are stepping in earlier than just passing assets on to their kids and grandkids when they pass away. Actually working towards either experiencing things with their grandchildren or children,
Right.
so maybe we're taking more vacations, or helping their families experience things while they're still here. Just like you said, Dad, can't afford the select soccer camp, Grandma and Grandpa are going to help. Want to help the kids get their children into the parochial schools, or even helping out with a lot of these things are happening before college. We've got lots of little grandkids.
And the cool part is that excess capital that we've been able to accumulate over time has put them in a position where they can do these things. And their question always is the same: is this going to tip the apple cart?
We've been spending all of these years being so disciplined that
they are who they are.
Right, they're but I still give our clients the credit for this, which is they are the disciplined ones to stay within the parameters. Now, we set them in agreement with each other. We came to this number together. I like to call it a fixed income of your own choosing. But if you stay, it is unfortunately the people on the other side of the table from us, their responsibility for maintaining that, because we don't get to spend the money. We just send it back to them. To stay disciplined over a long period of time gives you the opportunity to loosen the reins a little bit and do those extra things that you want to do. It also helps us plan for those things long term.
And it also helps when the market doesn't cooperate and there's some volatility like we're seeing. You have the cushion to withstand it.
Well, it's funny because, at least to me, it's humorous, only in that when we go through times that we are today, where the markets are, they're correcting, which they normally do. They're always going to correct. Very rarely do we. I've never received a phone call that said, "Oh, by the way, should we reduce our withdrawals?
Can we get out of the stock market?"
Or no, should we reduce our withdrawals because our capital may have gone down 3 or 4 or 5%? No, they never call.
Not about that. No.
Not on that. And so what happens is we're continuing sending them the same thing. No, hoping, knowing, experience-wise, we're going to recover. We always and we will eventually go to new market highs.
At least that is what history has shown us.
That's right. And so history can give us information. It certainly isn't predictive necessarily of the future, but it's good to know. But should I change my investment mix? The answer is maybe. There are some clients that, frankly, come to us in a greater risk mix than need to be. They have a higher stock proportion maybe than need to be.
I was just going to say, don't you love it when someone says, "I'm very conservative," and then you look at their portfolio, it's like, well, not according to this.
It's funny that you said that, because just 2 days ago we were meeting with a new prospective client, and he said to me, "I heard your dad on the radio say once that you were the Jewish grandmothers of investing, and so that's one of the reasons I'm here." And I said, "Great. I could actually eventually be a Jewish grandmother one day." So
I'm hoping.
Every day, I know it. So we're taking a look at their portfolio, because they brought in some statements. They weren't just in their 401k, because one of them was retired and one had not yet to retire yet. So I take a look and I was like, so I had only seen the outside of the 401k investments. And I said, so does that mean that the rest, that the 401k is in all cash? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I'm looking in your portfolio right now. What I'm looking at represents about half of what you mentioned you have, and it is all equities. You don't have a single bond or bond fund, or even you've got minimal even cash positions in here. It's 100% equities. Like, what? So, when we looked at the other side of their portfolio, it was not 100% in cash because, Dad, that's something you taught me a long time ago, is people balance risk in their own ways. So you're not going to see in everyone's portfolio necessarily exactly the mix across the board. And even when we're working with clients, we don't necessarily have the same mix in each individual account. But their mix did not reflect what they were saying. And I think that the important exercise that everyone should go through while they're, not just when they're approaching retirement, but is, take one of those investor profile questionnaires or quizzes that are offered to determine what your current risk tolerance is, and then see if your mix, what you currently have, actually matches up to that. And if it doesn't, if you're managing your own portfolio, maybe it's time to adjust. Or if someone is managing it for you, maybe you want to go in and have a conversation about that.
I couldn't agree with you more on this. And again, going back to this point about managing risk, and it really is curious because, right, we will see a situation where maybe somebody is very stock heavy on one side and very cash heavy on the other side, and this is how and they really do it subconscious. It isn't even a conscious decision, but a lot of time it's subconscious. Once we're able to have them identify, or we can identify this for them, they can say, yeah, now I understand what I'm doing. Well, great. Let's see if we can get into balance in the right places. Mm-hmm. Is also a matter, because a lot of times, obviously having growth in tax-deferred accounts is better than paying dividends and capital gains and continue to reimburse, et cetera, when you're getting killed on taxes.
Sure.
So there are a lot of things that we can do on this, but I think the core is, at least as far as I'm concerned, and I see these articles, gazillion every single day. Is $1 million enough? Is $2 million enough? Is this enough? Is that enough? It's all based on your spending. And the formula is simple, right, Rob?
Well, hold on. The formula is simple, but let's get to this text question because that's going to pull this whole thing together.
Perfect.
And our texter writes, so are you saying you compute the 4% at the point of retirement and fix that dollar amount throughout retirement?
So I'm going to say no, because let's work at the equation from the other direction. Don't take your 4% right now. Let's use the formula. If you are planning on retirement soon, let's use this formula together, but use your own numbers.
Every month, what is deposited into your checking account? After a month of spending and all your bills, what is left over?
If there's nothing left over, nice and simple, your spending is what you're bringing home.
Right. We increased that by 20%.
So take your paychecks, increase them by 20%. That's going to be your pre-tax income need, because your net, what you receive into your bank account is net. We have to reincorporate taxes for that. That's where we get the 20% from. If you anticipate a higher tax bracket, bump that number up a little bit. We're finding that most people are not above the 20% tax bracket, but use your judgment. Now,
annualize it.
Okay. And well, before we annualize it, what we want to do is subtract out our Social Security benefit on a monthly basis.
And or any pension.
Right. Got any other fixed income that is guaranteed? Let's subtract that out as well. Now you have come to your deficit. Annualize that.
Right.
And then divide that number by 4%.
So let's use a simple numeric number. Let's just say that you're spending less your Social Security benefits. You're short approximately $3,000 per month.
So it's $36,000 a year. $36,000 a year.
And we're talking about on the gross basis.
Right.
We multiply that by 12. That's $36,000. We divide that by 4%. So how much do I need at 4% to get 36? You need $900,000. That's it. That's the milk money. That's your magic number.
And so here's the value in working the equation from that direction. You might find you're already below 4%.
Woohoo!
Which would be cool, because then you're in what we like to call a safety zone. That means that every year, if you need a little extra, okay, or if not, then you're going to be building even faster. Either you're going to see account values, hopefully, if the market cooperates, rise more rapidly, or you're just going to have the opportunity to pull more when you need it. But you could be in a position at retirement, and we have clients in this situation where they're not pulling 4%, they're pulling less than 4%. So that's why we say, don't look at your account value and divide by 4%. look at your income need and divide by 4% to get what your account balance should be at retirement, this can do a couple of things. Either it gives you a goal to reach that is yours individually. It's not, do I need that, random $1 million to retire? Or it gives you the confidence to say, I have enough to retire, and now you get to make that decision on your own. Do I retire now or do I wait?
And, the fun part about this is, let's be real. We meet with folks, they hear us on the air. They're referred to by their friends, maybe family members. They come in. We give them we look at their information. We do their math model right in front of them. Mm-hmm. They see what it is. We come up, we look at the assets. You're a rock star, you're not. Okay? Most of them are. They take the leap of faith with us to say, okay, we feel confident this is going to happen. We tell them where we're putting their money.
Mm-hmm. And they can see it every day.
And they can see it every single day. And then what happens is they jump on board. They board the ship with everybody else.
Right.
On the cruise. We're going together. And what happens is we're checking on them at the beginning we're usually visiting them very often. Okay? Very often. And then what happens is we go to once every 6 months. Question number one is, how's the money? Is it good? Do we need to increase it or not? No. Okay. Every 6 months. What's changing in your life? Additions, subtractions, etc. What's going on? We're getting up to date. They become confident with their cash flow. They're confident with their spending because we didn't ask them to change it. And then if they said, well, we're going to, you know what? Okay. We believe you. You're going to save money. We believe you. We don't. Okay, but we do.
What?
People say they're going to save money. We're going to cut back on this. We're going to cut back on that. We don't believe you. I mean, the thing is that your lifestyle is what it is because of your spending habits. If you want to change, if you need to change them because you feel like you need to, you will. But most people don't change their habits, and that's cool.
That is cool. You know what else is cool? We got to take our last break of this hour.
So don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more of your texts right after these brief messages.
You're selling your home, and I want to buy it. This is Mike Robinson with Robank Properties, and I am ready to pay top dollar for your home. No contingencies, no inspections, no monkey business. I buy your home no matter the condition or location, and you walk away with cash. Call me, Mike Robinson, at 314-283-0867, 314-283-0867, or at robankproperties.com. That's ROBANG properties.com.
Midwest Money is your one-stop shop for all things financial. Join us every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. on Big 550 KTRS to learn how to make the most of your money and secure your financial future.
This is the Big 550 KTRS St. Louis, Alton, Valley Park, St. Charles, and the world.
Streaming live at KTRS.com.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
The opinions you hear on KTRS are those of the host, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or owners. If you have comments or suggestions, contact us at ktrs.com. Thanks for listening. Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talking Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, we're back for the last 6 minutes or so of the show. We've got some calls in, well, actually texts on the text line we want to get to, so rock and roll, babe.
And our next texter writes, if you are waiting and it's already laid out in your portfolio to help for college tuition for your grandchildren, which we only have one starting college next year, is it best to take out one withdrawal for the amount or increase your monthly payout?
Well, this is a great question. So if you're going to start paying tuition for the grandkids, it's already worked into the budget, you just haven't started that cash flow yet. Do we take the lump sum for the tuition or do we take it monthly?
I don't know. I'd take it twice a year.
How do they want to be paid?
Right. I think
that's what I was thinking, was just how...
Usually semesters, right?
Right. So
it could be once every quarter.
Yes. And I would consider, because we are with our clients that are doing exactly this, paying tuition. We know when the tuition is due, so oftentimes what we're doing is we are accumulating cash over a few month period, just making sure that we've got enough for when it's time to go out, depending upon what type of account it's in, or we're reorienting some of the portfolio to match when it's time to make those distributions. I don't think it's necessary to start squirreling monthly money away so you can pay the tuition when it comes up. I would take the lump sum. I would also just be mindful of keeping some cash on hand because, for example, if tuition was due on Monday, the last few weeks weren't the most exciting time to make large sales in the portfolio. So you do want to keep those things in mind, but I don't think taking it all at once is going to have any difference than if taking it over monthly. It'll just be easier for you.
Right. I agree.
And our next texter writes, can you briefly talk about the physical gold commercials I keep seeing? I find a lot of places to buy gold. I don't find many places to liquidate the gold without a fee. You don't say.
So I haven't seen the commercials the client's referring to, or the texter rather is referring to, but I don't think I've ever walked into any of those places that will purchase gold for weight and not seen fees associated with it. So I agree.
Well, of course there's fees. I mean,
but they got to make the money somewhere.
Well, that plus, they're not offering you the spot price of gold because they don't make any money.
Right.
Or any precious metal. So again, if this is a part of your portfolio, which is cool, understand their fees. Period. There's nothing's free in life.
But that is also true. So I would say this is so if you're considering physical gold, having a fee associated with the sale of it or the purchase of it is going to be no different than if you were holding any type of investment. There are going to be fees associated with that. 12B1 charges if you have a mutual fund, ticket charges if you're buying or selling something, depending upon what type of account you're in. So unfortunately, unless you're the S&P 500, you're going to have fees associated with investing. So you just have to work that into the equation of your potential returns.
Well put.
And our next texter writes, I heard an earlier discussion you guys had about annuities not receiving a step up in basis. Is there any other asset class that doesn't receive that tax preference?
Traditional IRA assets.
Treasury bonds.
CDs don't get step ups either, right?
No.
Because you got to pay the tax on the interest. I think that's those are
the big ones.
Yeah, we won't say that's an exhaustive list. You can always go onto the IRS.gov website to take a look, but those are the top holdings for individuals.
The cool thing is the other side.
What does get the step up in basis?
Right, which is securities that you've owned
that are outside of retirement accounts,
your home or other real estate properties, which is great.
Physical assets, right, like
cars,
precious metals, cars,
boats.
Jewelry, paintings, collectibles, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So that's why it's extremely important to not only to maintain those types of assets, but also to get on our congressman for any reason they would even consider wanting to change it. That's probably the biggest tax shelter that's available to regular folks.
Right.
Yeah, and we get a lot of questions about gifting equities to relatives, and maybe that's not the best idea to do it because they will inherit your cost basis, whereas if they inherit them, they get that step up. So all those capital gains get wiped away.
That's right. So you got to wait.
Right. So we always say if you're giving a gift, cash is usually best.
Cash is king.
That's right.
Unless it's to a charitable, to human beings, it's better to give cash. To non-human beings, i.e. charitable places, you do appreciate property.
Right, because the IRS defines gift differently than we might like to define it. So just because you're giving something away does not mean you get a tax deduction for it, or the person receiving it does either. So you just want to be careful.
And our last texter writes, you spent a lot of time today talking about distributions. How do your clients get distributions from their accounts when they decide to work with you, and how do I get the process started?
Well, setting up distributions is pretty easy. You just, as you're working with us, we'll fill paperwork out that you will approve of and sign that links your account with us to your bank account so we can direct deposit for you. as frequently as you'd like while also withholding taxes if necessary. And the way that you get started with us is by giving our office a call, 314-863-0008, or sending us an email through the website. Hit that Contact Us button, or tune in next week to hear a little bit more from us from 9 to 11 a.m. every Saturday.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Be listening next week at 9 for more Straight Talk on Retirement with your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus, on the Big 550 KTRS.